Hello and welcome again to the Blakes Brothers. I am R.C. Blakes and
I am Samuel Blakes.
Samuel Blakes. Man, I've been enjoying this time just dealing with issues that we typically don't get a chance to deal with in church.
Right.
In fact, about a lot of churches would probably run us out of there for talking about some of the stuff that we deal with on here. And today I'm excited because we're going straight to the street with our correspondent, Miss Casey Ferrand, and she has a real live one today. Let's go and let's hear what's coming from the streets.
I'm Casey Ferrand, your Blakes Brothers correspondent here in New Orleans with Teddy G. What's your question for the Blakes Brothers?
Whoa, this is me, Teddy G, sticking to the G code, and my question is this. I've dated black women all my life, and I recently started dating a white lady. She's very nice. However, she says that she wants me to be her Black Panther. I'm slightly offended, but, you know, how should I take this?
You start on that one.
Sticking to the G code. Listen, Teddy G, she wants you to be her Black Panther. That doesn't sound good.
It sounds to me, and I mean, I don't know the lady.
Right.
I don't know the lady, but it sounds to me like she has some, racial sexual fantasies.
Yeah.
And she wants a black man to fulfill some.
A mandingo.
To fulfill some wild, erotic sexual fantasies. Now, again, I don't know the lady, and because we are so inundated with race, it could be that as black men, we are overly sensitive to that statement. If a black woman had said, "I want you to be my Black Panther," would he take it the same way? Would it turn him on? Or would he be offended? Is it because he's black and she's white?
I'm offended.
Why are you offended, though? If
I'm
a black
offended.
woman said that to you?
I'm offended. Well, it's not a black woman saying it, but I'm offended because, I don't think that the basis of our relationship should be me being your black anything. If I'm your man, I'm your man. I'm not your black man, I'm your man.
But I'm still saying, okay, if a black woman says to you, "You my black king," you feel empowered by that. If a white woman says to you, "You're my black king," are we? You know what I mean? Are we influenced?
But if he says to her, "You're my white this or that," how is that going to be accepted?
Well, I think it just speaks to just the reality that you cannot really get around the tensions of race in dating in America, probably the world. But I definitely agree with you. My Black Panther, I don't know.
My position is this. If the foundation is faulty, the structure cannot stand.
Yeah.
And you cannot build a foundation based on the ethnicity of a person, even a black person.
Absolutely.
Black on black relationship. You can't build a solid relationship based solely on ethnicity.
Absolutely.
It has to be something.
And then I think to even a deeper level, what are the expectations of the relationship? Is she just looking for a sexual relationship? What is he looking for?
Right.
And if it's purely that, they don't really have anything anyway.
Well, if it's based on my ethnicity, it's superficial.
Yeah.
And ultimately artificial, and it won't stand.
Yeah. So Teddy, you and your lady probably should have some real, heart-to-heart conversation about what are the real expectations, and where is this relationship really trying to go.
Yeah, and maybe it's a joke. Maybe it's
maybe it was a joke.
And we're certainly not canceling the relationship and all the above because of this. But conversation is necessary to see.
Absolutely.
Because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Absolutely. So question number 2 is, first let me say that I love the show. I've been following both of you for years, and I attended Bishop R.C.'s Queenology Conference in Houston. Thanks to both of you for helping us. I live in Chicago, The black on black violence and murders here are out of control. I remember back in the days when the black community was more united, but it seems like we've lost that unity. Even the black churches have stopped stepping up to assist with this violent epidemic. I respect Reverend Al Sharpton and Reverend Jesse Jackson. They are legends. But I don't just want to see them when there's discrimination or violence against blacks from another race. How do we get our black leaders to tackle this problem in our community?
Wow. This is a question that really hits home for us because
Absolutely.
We have purpose in our hearts to be more civically connected as a ministry and as leaders. So, and certainly we respect, Reverend Sharpton, and we respect Reverend Jesse Jackson, but we need new blood that's engaged.
Absolutely.
As it relates to, what is transpiring within the confines of our community. And we need new leaders to step up. So I'm in total agreement with you.
Well, I think, my perspective on this question is that we have a new brand or new breed of leadership that
Certainly.
is not as socially conscious.
Yeah.
Especially in the pulpit, because when you start talking about leadership in the black community, the leaders in the black community are primarily the black preachers.
Yeah.
And we have a generation of preachers that are not really socially conscious, and we've lost our sense of social justice. We've lost that message.
Yeah.
Because it's not popular. We want to continue to access government resources, and it has not been popular for a black preacher to be socially conscious and 501c3 have 501c3 status at the same time. So we've kind of pushed that to the back burner, and I think to a large degree we have a generation that's bought into the fact that black people are more educated and black people can buy bigger houses and drive in finer cars, that equates into freedom. And it really does not. Dr. King said, if it's not all of us, it's none of us. And so we have a tendency within our own community to forget the forgotten who are part of our community, because we've done like George and Weezy, and we've moved on up. And, we got an apartment on the east side. We forget about those on the south side. And Reverend Jesse Jackson, is a personal friend of ours.
Certainly.
And we spend a lot of time with him. And he's developed something that we are part of and encouraging other leaders like ourselves to become a part of. And I forget the exact name of it, but it's basically a school for leaders, black leaders, to educate us relative to how to create social justice movements from within our churches and from within our communities. A lot of times, leaders like myself may not speak to certain issues because it's better to be silent until you're completely educated and you know the verbiage and you know what needs to be said and how to say it, than to speak prematurely and to be discounted. So he's raised this up to begin to teach leaders like ourselves who have that passion to really become a voice for our people and to really unite our people and to really speak to these ills in our community the proper way, in an effective way, so that what he's done in his generation doesn't die with him, but it passes down through us and even to the generations to come. So there are some leaders that are conscious, and there are some leaders that are rising up with that same heart that she's expressing here.
There's even a broader message, I think, in this question slash statement to leaders as to the necessity to smell like the sheep.
Absolutely.
And be concerned as to what is transpiring within the communities we've come from.
Yes, sir.
Even though we're not there, someone still lives there.
Absolutely.
And someone still deals with the things that we've dealt with. So we have to have a consciousness of what's going on, and we got to smell like the sheep. You cannot be a shepherd who is isolated from the sheep and can identify.
I just recently had a thought while in Chicago. I spent a lot of time in Chicago. And as I was sitting there, I was thinking about two of the most feared places in the world are the two places, or at least two of the places that I love being and am the most comfortable in. And those places are New Orleans and Chicago. People are literally afraid to come to either one of those cities.
Yeah.
And I love being there. And the thought came to me, the reason you love being here and you're comfortable being in these places is because you understand the people.
Yeah.
You understand the people because you come from the people and because you're connected to the people.
Certainly.
So we really need more leaders that, as you just put it, that smell like the sheep and that are really connected and really view ministry as about the people and not so much the goals in the organization.
Well, and think about even what the Bible says about Jesus. The Bible says Jesus was a man of sorrow and he was acquainted with grief.
That's right.
It's hard to minister to what you're not acquainted with.
Hard to heal what you can't feel.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, which I'm certain is where their minds are now. Why is it that in our community, as they put it in the question,
yeah,
why is it that there's so much black on black crime?
One of the things that sticks out to me the most is parenting. You and I came up with parents rearing. We came up with directives and directions from our parents, but many of our kids now are on automatic pilot. They are raising themselves. They are having to be self-sufficient at ages that are really unbelievable. Second thing I would say is just education. Wherever education is low, and the worst schools are often in our societies. We are victimized by schools that don't even have books. Oftentimes they have the worst educators in our society, and wherever there is a lack of education, there's always a spike in crime. So.
And to go even deeper and probably to keep the conversation even more real, it's systematic. Our communities are not depleted of fathers, and our schools are not horrendous by accident.
No.
This has been systematic. When you start thinking about the incarceration, the mass incarceration of black men, that's about depriving the black family, which is the foundation of black society.
Yeah.
You take a young black man off of the street for some minor incident, you lock him up in prison for 2 or 3 or 4 decades of his life, and then he comes out of prison, he does his time, he cannot vote. He comes out of prison, he cannot get a job. All of that's intentional. So now you have depleted the black family of the leadership. Yeah. Now you've put the black woman in a position where she's frustrated and angry, and she's trying to fulfill roles that she was never designed to fulfill. The children are not fathered, they're not overseen, the community is deprived. All of this stuff is systematic. And so now the tensions come from, all of these other forces and entities that are oppressing the community. And so now the outgrowth of that is violence. If I'm going to be a murderer, I'm going to murder those that are closest to me.
Certainly.
You know what I mean? I was listening to one brother who was expounding on this issue, and he was talking about people always, violent people always violent towards those that are in their vicinity.
Right.
And so when you start looking at the notion of black on black crime, it's because black folk have access to black folk, and the tension and the pressures are there. And so there are a lot of things that, then it goes even deeper than that. It goes back to the fact that African Americans suffer from a psyche that probably no other persons on the planet suffer from. We have been engineered towards self-hatred.
We really have.
Google Willie Lynch, study that, and then look at Black America today and look at how we view one another, how we handle one another. The Willie Lynch syndrome is very much alive, and self-hatred is real.
We have classism within the confines of our race.
Absolutely.
We judge each other based on skin tone and
Now, to that point, I've had, which I don't respond to because I don't respond to stupid people. My wife is a black woman of a very light hue. And I've had people say, how can you speak to black women when you're not married to one? My wife is very much so black. She's a black Jamaican. And this kind of ignorant stuff comes from black people.
Certainly. Self-hate.
Self-hate. So, before we start looking out and pointing fingers at Donald Trump, which he has his issues, trust me, he does, we really have some internal work to do.
Well, Rome was not destroyed from without. It was destroyed from within. And I think oftentimes that applies to our culture. That principle applies to our culture. We are destroyed from within.
From within, intentionally.
Yeah.
Intentionally. Well, man, that got a little that got a little heavy there. But race is a real issue in our world and especially in our country. It's been a joy. Anything on your heart you want to say to the people before we leave today?
It's just been our pleasure, and we have enjoyed just being able to candidly answer your questions and commune and communicate with you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we love you much.
Thank you again. We love you. God bless you. Till next time.